morning, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. If you're as probably possibly weary as I am. You've been here. I got here Sunday night, and it's been a wonderful show. I'm Brent Hutto. I'm with Truckstop.com, and I'll be your moderator and panelist participant today. So we appreciate you guys being here. If you gentlemen will go ahead and just take your seats. And I've been coming to TIA for 6 years, and this is my sixth one. I'm involved in the board of directors, and I absolutely love this show. I tell the TIA staff all the time that this is the best organized and best participant event I've been to inside of transportation in my 21 years. And I think it's because the members of TIA, the 3PLs and brokerages, you guys are owners. You act like owners because you're owners, and you guys are fully engaged in what's going on inside of your industry. And so it's remarkable to watch that happen. And even though I'm not a logistician like you guys, but I'm no different than you. If you were in the event yesterday, you saw part of my family up on the big screen. I have 6 children. All right. So ages 22 to 9. So I'm still in the middle of the battle. And, I need your services more than anything else. So I appreciate what you guys do. I work for Truckstop.com, which is a technology company, but, I really appreciate what, you guys do to make the industry move forward. Hey, want to point out a couple things. We do the questions here at TIA on the app. You guys all have the app downloaded? All right. Now there was some confusion. I appreciate Peter pointing this out on how you send questions in. So if you go to the session and you click on the session itself, you guys want to do this real quick. So I want you guys to be able to put questions in, and if there's any challenge with it, then we'll take them verbally, of course. But if you go to the app itself, you go to the session, and then what it says in the description, if you'll click that, it'll expand, and there's a link on the bottom. So just click the link, and that's how you submit the questions, and they'll come in on the iPad. Make sense? I didn't know that. I haven't submitted a question since I've been here, so I want to make sure you guys are clear on that. All right, fantastic. So let's talk. I want to talk a little bit before I introduce our expert panel. I want to talk a little bit about our topic itself, the connected supply chain. That sounds kind of big because supply chain encompasses a lot of things. As I've learned in my 6 years, supply chain is everything from sourcing it at the location in some potential foreign country to all the way to the delivery and the purchase of the goods at retail. So, but we're talking about the connected supply chain as it relates to 3PLs and brokerages. The one thing I want you guys to think about, or we want you to think about, is how does the fourth industrial revolution impact you? Now, how many of you guys were like me, and when somebody said this, you didn't really know what it was? Anybody want to be? All right, so Gail, yeah, okay. Okay, so I was like, fourth industrial revolution, I thought there was only one. But there wasn't. There's been 3, and we're in the middle of our 4th one. So you had the first one was steam and water power, and what that did to our world. The second one was electricity and assembly lines. The third one was computerization. Anybody remember how scared to death everybody was when the computers were going to go from 99 to 2000? Scared to death. Non-event, right? Nothing changed. So we're moving into the 4th industrial revolution, and the reason that I love this graphic is because, I think this is a pointer. Great. If you noticed, our topic was the connected supply chain. The 4th industrial revolution is how everything will be connected. How everything. And the big thing about this is not how it's going to affect the businesses. It's about how it affects our lives as humans. Because everything will be connected. I got a couple of quotes I want to read you, then we're going to jump into talking about the actual topic. It says that the impact of this is different because it's going to affect all disciplines and industries and economies. And why? Because they will all become connected. And it will disrupt, and I don't like that word because it will change almost every industry, creating massive change in a non-linear way at an unprecedented pace. In other words, it'll speed up and go faster. Klaus Schwab, who is the founder of the World Economics Forum, he's the foremost guy on this fourth industrial revolution, said this. He said, the concern is that the decision makers, and that's you guys, when it comes to 3PLs and logistics and moving these things, the decision makers are too caught up in traditional linear thinking. In other words, it's going to be A to B to C instead of A to Q. Will be caught up in traditional linear thinking too absorbed by the immediate concerns to think strategically about the forces of disruption and innovation shaping their future. So you guys are here. You guys are the leaders in the market. You guys are here. It probably won't affect you as much because you're getting the information, you're going to process the information, and you're going to do something about it. But it's going to shape our entire industry because we as humans tend to think everything takes a standard form. But because of connection, it's going to move a lot faster. It's going to move in directions that it didn't used to go before, and it's going to move at an extremely fast pace. Now, that's a good thing. How many people here would like their 3PL and brokerages to go from moving an individual carrier manager to move from 8 to 10 loads a day to 15 to 20 loads a day? Anybody for that? No? So those that aren't for it, please come talk to us afterwards. Good morning, Miss Lindsay. That's the benefit of this. And so we're here to talk about this today. I want to introduce our panel. Oh no, hold on. I meant to say, it's gonna affect robotics and all these different things that are on here. This is, by the way, is available on TIA. Please take as many pictures as you want. You can pull this offline, or online. But it affects all these areas. Some of these are things I had to look them up online, honestly, to understand what they were. What is biotechnology? What's how things are connected to us and how that's connected to everywhere else.
Hey, Brent.
Yes, sir?
Wouldn't everything sort of really be categorized under number 6?
Well, it could be.
1 through 9 is really the Internet of Things.
Yeah, it could be. Sure. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. But my point is how it's going to affect us all as a business. So I want you guys to be thinking about that. And the reason we posit that as a team is that that idea of thinking that's going to be happening inside of our industry over the next 3 to 5 years, and how that's going to improve but change your businesses. And so that's why these gentlemen are here today to talk about this. All right, so I want to introduce our panel. You met me, bald-headed guy from Alabama, got 6 kids. I want to introduce you to our panelists. My good friend for more than 10 years, Mr. Prasad Galapali with Trucker Tools, the CEO and founder of that. To his left is Anthony Sutardja, the CEO and co-founder of Parade, doing wonderful things in AI in the marketplace. And to his left, Peter Rinchler, the CEO of Carrier Direct. So I would like for them just to take about 2 or 3 minutes each to talk about what your business does in the marketplace, and then we'll jump into the first question.
Sure. My name is Prasad Galapali. I'm the CEO and founder of Trucker Tools. Good friend of Brent is a very good friend. So a little bit about Trucker Tools. Trucker Tools is a cloud-based software that connects brokers with carriers. We call it carrier capacity and relationship management. So what it does is it helps you as brokers connect with your carriers and grow your carrier network for the purpose of covering your freight, for the purpose of having the visibility of where your freight is, and when the freight is delivered, getting those bill of ladings and everything back. So it completes everything outside your TMS and your billing. And the whole platform is built on mobile technology for the carrier side, and of course desktop and integrated with your TMSs. We have over 600,000 truckers on our app today. A majority of them are micro carriers, 10 trucks or less. Over 85% of our carrier base of 125,000 carriers are 25 trucks or less. So predominantly small carrier platform. So in some sense, we aggregate all those guys for you. Today we have some of the largest brokers, the big names that you know, are using us for tracking their freight, matching their freight, and moving that. Another way to look at us is we're a digital freight matching platform.
All right, thank you. Anthony?
Hey, my name is Anthony Sutardja. I am co-founder and CEO of Parade, where our mission is to improve the carrier experience for our freight brokerage customers through our technology. So whether it's harnessing data, using machine learning, getting connected with the ELDs, how does that all mash into one place so that we're able to, for our customers, utilize carriers more effectively, and then two, increase that operational efficiency where we're looking for gains in load count per head for our clients.
Can you guys hear okay? I know you can hear me, so I want to make sure you guys can hear them because these handhelds can be a challenge sometimes. Mr. Rentschler.
Thanks, Brent. So my name's Peter Rentschler. I'm the CEO of Carrier Direct. Our company exists to help transportation companies do great things. What does that mean? We're a consulting firm focused on the transportation space with kind of two core areas of focus. One, we do strategy and management consulting, helping with things like organizational structure, process improvement, compensation programs, training programs, recruiting, and then also your technology strategy. And then we also have in-house development capabilities where we actually build custom software for our clients, whether it's a customer portal or the entire TMS that they use to run their business.
Excellent. So, as I said, I'm Brent Hutto with Truckstop. We are a neutral party that helps connect you to carriers in the marketplace and help you move your freight. We've been around for 24 years, if you don't know us, so which is an eternity inside of technology. So that's us as a business. So the first question that I wanted to posit to these guys is, when you think about the word connected, it's just an open word. It's just a big word. It's a common, it's a catchword. A lot of people are using it today. The first question I wanted to start with was, what does this mean to these guys and their companies? Because I'm our Truckstop's a technology provider. Trucker Tools is a technology provider. Parade is a technology provider. Carrier Direct is a consulting and strategy company who consults and strategizes on technology for them. So what does that mean to you guys and to your customers, to the industry in general? So I want the audience to kind of get your point of view on what is that, what are you guys thinking when that comes up? So if you don't mind, let's start with Anthony first. Anthony, what is that in your mind? What does that mean for the audience?
Yeah, I think as the world is getting more connected with ELDs, all this data out here, the load boards where so many of the owner-operators are working off of, and that there's some new entrants too, like freight waves, and I think that's connectivity in terms of information being streamed into these freight brokers and 3PLs. And with all this connection happening for our customers, it's what do we make out of all this data? All this data is coming in. We don't know how to manage it. And I can get the latest weather patterns over a region, but what does that actually translate to for my carriers, and where we focus on that carrier experience, on how do I execute on it? How do I actually book a load with it? And so for us, it's being able to gather that data, all the different connected streams, in more real time, help our customers improve the carrier profiles that they have, and then giving them the tools so that they can actually use all these different connected streams to either increase efficiency or whatever other strategic goals they might have, like reutilization.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Prasad, from Trucker Tools point of view.
When we think about connected systems, at a high level, we are all in supply chain. So we start off with, again, I'm trying to keep the scope a little smaller. You got shippers, brokers, and carriers. These three parties, how they're connected with each other.
Right. Yep.
Now, if you drill down a little bit, how these organizations are connected in terms of technology, in terms of people. Because human relationships are a important part in this industry as a whole. So when you talk about technology, you're talking about systems talking with each other. It's, the shippers have the freight, and brokers are moving that freight, and the carriers are actually the ones that are moving the freight. So how the information is flowing from one end to the other and back, that in itself, from a technology point, how the systems are talking, that's one level of connectivity. How efficient these are, right? The second level of connectivity is how people in each of these organizations, how are they connected with each other, right? How are they interacting with shippers? So brokers play an important role because they're sitting in the middle, right? How are they interacting with shippers? How are they interacting with carriers? For us, from Trucker Tools, we have, our focus is the connectivity between brokers and carriers. So that takes a lion's share of our focus. But that's pretty much, we look at this as both a human relation versus technology relation.
Excellent. Thank you. So Pete, as you guys are consulting with people, what does that bring up in y'all's mind when you think about connected for this industry?
Yeah. So the question for us really is, we hear this question on a daily basis from our clients. They're getting requests from their shippers, from their customers, and also from their carriers around how do they be more connected. We've done some work with shippers in the past, and I've literally had, major pharmaceutical company ask me, how can I know where the dozen rolls of toilet paper that I ordered on Amazon is, and I can't find my $1 million shipment of pharmaceuticals. And so from our perspective, this is a problem that 3PLs and freight brokerages really need to be spending time and money and energy on. And the point of view should be, how do we position ourselves to be frictionless partners for our shippers and for our carriers? We fundamentally believe that the 3PL of the future is the one that can easily integrate with every technology that's out there, the one that can easily integrate with every shipper, with every carrier. Because as the consumer expectation continues to go up, the B2B expectations will continue to go up, and the businesses that are positioned to really harness the technology and to be a frictionless partner are the ones that will win.
Excellent. Thank you. So from a Truckstop standpoint, we see it as opportunity for the industry to continue to grow and thrive. There's a lot of thought. We are continuously polling our brokerage customers. We service about 10,000 of them, and we're continuously polling them as to what their needs are. And their needs are to stay relevant with their customers, and to be able to move freight as fast as possible for their shipper customers, to provide the best for their bottom line. So for us, when we think about connected, we think about it in two words. We think about velocity and volume. How fast can it move, and how many of them can they move? And that's the thing that we default to when we look at how do these systems need to be connected. Because you guys use a lot of technology, and right now they're disparate systems that are somewhat connected but not near as connected as they could be. And the more they're connected, the faster they move with velocity, and the more freight you can move with volume. So the idea of a connected supply chain for your business from a Truckstop standpoint, and I think these gentlemen would agree, is a massive opportunity for you to grow your business and increase your opportunity. So for us, that's the way we look at it as a business and as a neutral party. That's how we see this for our customers. So my second question to you guys is along the same line. It's sort of the elephant in the room a little bit. We've talked about it a little bit already. It's digital transformation. Well, that sounds like a great word. I'm not Mark Zuckerberg, and I'm not Bill Gates, and so what does that mean? I'm just a consumer like you guys. So when you guys think about digital transformation and you think about the industry, how are you guys approaching this today to serve where the market's going? So let's start with Prasad this time. Prasad, how does Trucker Tools look at that?
So digitization of connectivity. So we, as you pointed, we got into the connectivity, but the connectivity, the connectivity revolution that we're going through is based on digitization primarily, right?
Hey, would you define that a little bit? Digitization? Because it's hard for me to say sometimes. I screw it up all the time. What does that mean? What does that word mean?
So it's primarily coming down to how information is exchanged.
Okay.
That's primarily what it is, right?
Simple.
A lot of times we can look at digitization and say it's zeros and ones, while it is true, but it's not what we're talking about. We're talking about information being exchanged. That's digitization, right? Now, how that can make a big impact in this phase of growth is, you mentioned about the velocity, the speed at which we can exchange things. So think about, few decades ago, people would write letters and post them, or fax, right? Even fax is, I'm not saying that as a form of digitization, but how long it would take. Today, somebody would send an email to somebody's texting, somebody's calling. So that instant response, right? The velocity, the mode of communication and the velocity at which you can exchange information has changed significantly. What that brings to this space primarily is, for all of us, or primarily all of you being brokers, you're sitting in the middle of an exchange all the time.
Right.
You don't own the freight, you don't move the freight, but you are the facilitator of movement of the freight on behalf of someone else. So that means you're constantly communicating back and forth. So the biggest impact that digitization has is your business. Of all the businesses, is your business. Right? It comes down to how you use technology. I'm not just talking about your internal systems, communication within your team, versus communicating outside your team.
Right.
Various modes. There is no one size fits all. When you talk to your friends, some friends you call them, some friends you text them, some friends you email, and some you WhatsApp, right?
Sure.
Or Facebook, right? Everybody's got a favorite method.
Sure.
So that understanding that is where the human element comes in. Right. So it's not a computer that says, well, if I need to call Bob, if I need to reach Bob, I have to try these 4 approaches. It's your human, your ability, right? So it's a combination. While the digitization is improving this connectivity, right, but it's the human element that adds the flavor to it.
Yeah. Okay. Good points. Pete, from Carrier Direct standpoint on the digitization, I'll get there eventually. How do you guys look at that?
So, it's interesting. Brent, you made a comment earlier about Truckstop's a part of Truckstop's focus being on velocity and throughput. I think that's a key driver here. Sure. And I look at the question of like, how are 3PLs, how are the leading 3PLs approaching this in the industry today? You look at some of these hyper-growth brokerages that have popped up in the last couple of years, the Arrive Logistics, Molo. I think Molo just came out with an article that they're at $100 million run rate after maybe a year and a half, 2 years in operations.
Yeah, sure.
Those businesses are investing heavily in automating every possible interaction that they can. Every interaction with a customer, with a carrier, internally within their organization is an opportunity to use technology to automate. And so that's how I look at from my perspective, that's really what the digital transportation or transformation really means. I think on a whole, the industry is still really under investing in technology as a percentage of revenue relative to other industries, especially for what's effectively a services industry in a business. But what we're seeing and what we ultimately help a lot of our clients with is come in and map out every step and every process that you're doing. Look to define the optimal process and then leverage technology that fits that process. One of the, I believe that one of the biggest, challenges that this industry faces is that we have a tendency to build process around technology, which is completely backwards. Technology should exist to serve business process, not the other way around.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. Anthony, parades, what's their point of view on the digitization process?
Yeah. On that, the definition of digitization, I actually follow a lot of your thoughts on that in terms of, for us, digitization is mapping out the business processes at the freight brokerage and in the carrier sales experience, like how do we break down, all right, that procurement cycle for figuring out what carriers you need on the RFP? How do we provide technologies that can provide the information to digitize that interaction? Likewise, on actually just executing on a load, what are the processes in place? And I think there's a lot been fanfare on digital freight matching recently, on getting to this fully digital book process. And I think it's an interesting ambition. But I think a lot of people put the cart before the horse, where there's not enough, in terms of those processes that need to be digitized. When we jump to this full digitization of this carrier sales process, we're not necessarily looking at what are the gaps in between. And for our customers, one of them is a 600-person carrier sales operation, and they're moving towards a digital strategy. But before they've got their own TMS, their carriers can log in, they can go book loads, but there wasn't enough data infrastructure on understanding what their carriers needed. There's not enough intelligence on pulling together all the information on the carriers that they needed. So in that transformation, I think there's a lot of these different business processes that have to get mapped out individually and transformed individually, but then how do you tie them all together, connect them more, so that you are able to digitize each portion and little business process of finding the right carrier, then we'll go to some sort of digital booking process.
Right. Parade's product in general is an artificial intelligence engine. And so just that word alone kind of scares me, right? Is it replacing humans? Are you going to use robots for everything? But that's not the case, obviously. So from a Truckstop standpoint, we as a business, we're all about relationships. You're never going to remove the relationship between the carrier, the broker, and the shipper. That's a human necessity. We, by design, are relational. But automate the things that should be automated, that can be automated, so you can do other things that are not automated. So if a process can be automated, let's just say you've got freight in a lane that it moves consistently every single week, and you've got a group of carriers that run that for you every single week. How do you automate that process? Because that can be automated. You're not displacing the relationship. You're just automating it where every party would like it automated. So you know what? You can work on the things that are difficult, that need a human touch, that need more information, that need a better check-in, those sort of things. So to me, when I hear that word that I struggle in saying, it's automate where it's necessary to automate. And that's not a bad thing. And it doesn't displace people. It allows your talented staff, your talented partners, to do things that help you grow the business, not just maintain the business. You were in the economic thing earlier. You think about if we have a little bit of and by the way, we've been on a 40-year high. If we don't do as well as a 40-year high, and it dips down half of what it was, you're still above a normal market, which means there's still growth opportunities. How do you grow? Well, you need to be able to continue to create efficiency in your business. So that's what we look at from the digitization process within the marketplace. It is to be embraced because it will help you grow your business. So that's a pretty cool thing. All right. You hit on something, Peter. And so I'll let you start with this one. Because technology is a cost, right? Everybody agree with that? All right. Yeah, a lot of heads shaking. Great. Well, it can be. Yeah, that's a good point. And that's the goal, right? Is for it to, so how should this industry, because I think when things are hyper connected, there's more value out of them. So Peter, I'd love for you to start on the aspect of how should a 3PL or brokerage in this industry view the need for technology?
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I think I've already made my perspective pretty clear that, I believe that the industry as a whole underinvests in technology. Mm-hmm. I believe, you know, Brett, I appreciate your comment that it's a revenue neutral. I'd actually even take that a step further and say in many cases in this industry, it's technology can be a revenue generating, investment. And I believe that when you look at technology investment over time, right now, what we run into and what we see with a lot of our clients, people look at, well, this is how much it's going to cost me today. Mm-hmm. And they don't see, to Brent's point, where can I reallocate the head count? How can my carrier reps move 20 loads instead of 8 loads a day? And what's the impact to my business on investing in that technology? We spend a lot of time helping people build business cases to support the spend in technology. And the ROI is astronomical when you actually look at it over time and calculate not only the increase in productivity, but also the ability to reallocate resources. And to Brent's point, it doesn't mean headcount reduction. It doesn't mean layoffs. It doesn't mean replacing people with technology. It means how can we automate this component of the process, track and trace, for instance, mm-hmm. and then train those people into sales roles and have them then driving sales. It's a matter of how do we, you know, to Anthony's product, how do we automate some of the connectivity with, or some of the communication with carriers, and then reallocate the revenue generating employees that are carrier sales reps instead of handling updates and phone calls from carriers. They're out there sourcing additional capacity and covering more loads. You know, I really think that the ROI on technology needs to be a holistic perspective, and it needs to be over time. There's a reason why people capitalize technology investment. I think that that's something that this industry has historically been very conservative on and is just now starting to turn the page on around capitalizing large technology investment over time so that you're not getting a big implementation hit, because, you know, well, that's another topic around misimplementing technology.
Right. Thank you. Anthony, how does Parade look at this one?
The question is
This question is, how should a 3PL or brokerage view the need for technology? And I based it a little bit on, is it an expense or is it an investment, or how's that work? And man, that's tough. So cause you guys are a new entrant in the market. You're brand new. You got a fresh look at it, and you're working well with a lot of customers. And so, how would you as a Californian, Berkeley guy, you know, super smart AI guy, what's your thought on the need for that?
I think it really boils down to every brokerage is a little different.
Sure. Absolutely.
Where there are different bottlenecks that are issues within your own operations, or you think you can invest either the process or the technology to fix those bottlenecks. And for us, what we've looked at in all of our customers is primarily on that carrier relationship, and how that seems to be the bottleneck for our customers, at least in terms of a priority for technology spend. And so it's kind of like a mixture where now why wouldn't you invest in your processes to make them better? And it can be through people. I think now it's a blend of people and technology. And so it's like any business. You want it to run faster, smoother.
Sure.
And with us, I think you can get into these processes, put in technology, work with, and as Prasad is saying, really interact with the human relationship aspects of it, I think the ROI shows, and I think we're going to talk about that later,
sure.
on how it's ultimately just a investment in growth rather than a cost.
Okay, cool. Prasad?
I think Peter and Anthony covered pretty much most of the points. The way we look at that is, the image I always have for a broker is within your organization. You can look at it within your organization or outside. The moment freight comes into your system across, right, or into your organization, you get a freight from shipper to all the time, all the way it's being moved, it's been fully invoiced, everything's done, right? This is going in like this. There are a lot of touch points that your people are, 3PLs people or brokers people are touching those, that freight, right? How do you reduce those touch points? How do you make it smoother? So the outcome is literally two things. If you have an organization, let's say with 20 people, a brokerage, how many loads are you moving, right? How fast are you moving it, right? Without any hiccups. Let's say you're moving, I'm just making these numbers up, right? You're moving 10,000 loads. Right? Can you move 100,000? Can you move 1 million loads? Right? How efficiently are you moving this? It's a constant. It's not a one and done. Often a lot of people look at technology and say, I need to buy this and I'm done. It's not like buying a car that you just buy and you don't have to think about it for the next 5 years or 10 years.
Still got to service the car, right?
Yeah, you still have to service the car. But that's, when it comes to technology in a brokerage, in a 3PL space, it is a constant improvement. You're constantly tweaking your process to be able to move more loads through your organization more efficiently. And hence, as a business organization, you all have this goal. How do I maximize my revenue? Right? And, with the same staff. Today, unemployment is very low. In fact, people are having difficulty finding good employees. And it will continue to happen as the largest economy in the world is still growing. Even if you call it 2.5%, that's big number when you're talking over $20 trillion economy. So we're going to continue to have this unemployment issue for a bit, which means each one of us is going to have to do more. And technology as a leverage is how people should look at it. And that leverage is constantly changing. That's the beauty of technology. You can, it doesn't come in one box that you have to take and only use it that way. With technology, if you don't like it, we can change it. It's a software, right? There are people who can tweak these things to fit your needs. And two, the demand for improvement is also very high outside your organization, if you think about it. If you order something online today, how many of you expect it has to be at your doorstep by tomorrow?
Yeah, just about everybody.
Just about everyone, right? Thanks to Amazon, everybody thinks 2-day shipping is a standard. And how can you move things so fast? So it's because you are innovating new ideas, getting at speed, right? What to say that same-day shipping is going to become a standard in another couple of years. Maybe, you order and it shows up at your doorstep in a few minutes.
Right.
This is what the speed is very important, right? The need for changing the supply chain is always happening. And so the processes are changing. So technology has to be very fluid. Think of technology as a fluid piece that shapes with your needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. We think about it in great companies and great brands have great people. If you want to attract the best people to help you run your business, you need to empower them. So you empower them with a lot of things, and one of them is the ability to do their job really well. In our world, our connected world, investing in those services to do that is hyper important. So that's one thing. Because you can't grow without people, you got to have bright minds. We're not going to all have robots running everything. I don't think that'll ever replace the human ingenuity. Number two, I think about it this way. If you're small or if you're medium sized, what levels the playing field? What allows you to work on a bigger scale? What allows you to have access to something that you're not on that side of the country, or you're not in that region, or you don't know where the players are there? Technology allows you to do that because it levels the playing field. So to us, it's really about those couple things that allows you to really empower your staff and people to do a phenomenal job, and it levels the playing field. And that's what's great about it. With the democratization of information, it's an amazing thing. So investing in allows you to do those two things. All right, so I want to move to the next question. This is the really, yes, sir. Did you have a comment?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Can I make a comment on that? Sorry to interrupt.
Sir, please, no, jump in.
Your first point around great people.
Yeah.
Every single time we go into a business that is underinvested in technology, when we're interviewing employees, we hear over and over and over again, I could do more with better technology. What ends up, this is something that when we're working with the smaller, 5, 10,
Yep.
20, $50 million freight brokerages, they grew and they've hired some folks from CH or from some of the other bigger providers, and those people come in and they can't hit the sales numbers that they've committed to because it takes them 20 clicks to book a shipment, whereas at their old role and in their old technology they could do it in 7. So I wanted to comment that's like we hear about it in exit interviews, we hear about it in the interviews when we're interviewing floor employees. It's really, really frustrating, and great people want to have the tools to succeed. I think that's a really, really important point.
Yeah, what I find is interesting is when we look at this with our 3PL and brokerage customers, a lot of the people that are moving the freight are less than 40. And so I'm 51, I'll be 52 in May. So I'm a little bit outside the demographic. Well, maybe I'm in the demographic, but I'm on the far end of it. But a lot of the ones that are moving the freight are less than my age, less than some of you guys' age. There's a lot of young people in here. If you walked around the show, I was amazed at how many really up-and-coming 30s to 40-year-olds were here, and that's really vibrant about our marketplace. They grew up in technology. Give them the technology to do their jobs because it's expected. Yes, sir.
So to what Peter's saying, a lot of these kids coming up, they don't know the technology, but they don't know the process.
Well, sure.
So
There's a training aspect to it, sure.
How do you teach them to know what they don't know?
Right.
What they're going to need to know? How do you guys connect the two pieces so that you can make that person who's got now the 20 clicks, so he's got 2 clicks to get where he wants to go, and he doesn't really know he needs that. And how do you know which piece of software to give him?
Yep.
Based on what he's doing, because there are a lot of different job descriptions within our industry. So how do you figure that out?
So the question is, how do you enable the people with the technology? How do you know which technology to give them to be able to do their job great? Yeah. So.
If you give the wrong technology, they're even worse off.
Sure. And you guys want, okay, Anthony's ready to jump in on that. Why don't you just answer that question? I want to move to the next question. So the next question I think is the most important question we're going to ask.
Sure. Part of it is their own educational structures to bringing in new employees. Carrier sales churn is super high. There needs to be good processes to educate new staff on how to operate freight. That being said, new technologies is hard. Like, you want them to go through a new TMS. They've got to relearn how to build a load. It becomes very difficult to retrain. And so I think it's more interesting to look at technologies that don't require retraining, that don't require any training. And just for example, like one of our clients that started, like when they enabled themselves, they were able to flip it on. There is no training necessary to get more throughput, but those operational adjustments that happened within the brokerage allowed them to go from booking 190 loads per day per month, 190 loads per month to 300, which that's a 52% increase. And so I think if the technology is doing its job in the background, and helping support the staff without any training, I think that adds even further, value to technology adoption and all these efforts on digitization.
So your toughest challenge is to convince people of Brent and my age to adopt the new stuff and the right stuff.
Absolutely. We're going to go on to this next question because we've got about 10 minutes left, and I want to pose this question to this group because this is the number one concern among 3PLs and brokerages when you talk about this digital universe, this connected universe. And it revolves around your private data. A lot of you head shaking. So how many of you would like to take all of your core carrier networks and all your contact information and dump it into somebody's system? Anybody want to raise their hand really quick? Here in the back. So I want these guys to answer this question. How does technology protect their valuable company's information? Because there's always a concern about that. Where is my data going? You know, I worked 20 years building this. And really, I've got connections with people through relationship, and then I've got the data that connects me to getting it done. I need that protected. So let's start with Prasad and answer pretty quickly if you can, because I want to make sure we answer a couple of the questions in the audience. So how is data being protected? How do you see data being protected in the market? Their data, not
Absolutely.
data in general. Their data.
Absolutely.
Their company.
So privacy is a huge thing. Mm-hmm. Confidentiality is a huge thing. So what we did with Truckstop is we built the whole platform based on privacy and confidentiality. Your data is your strategic advantage, your unique strength, right? Mm-hmm. So in our system, we put silos pretty much. These firewalls protect you from, keeping your data within itself. That's a very, a predominant thing because, once the data is pushed into a common pool, I came from load matching background. Everything is dumped into one common pool, and so everyone can see everything. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, people are not sharing much into it. Mm-hmm. So, but if you can build the private networks where they're completely safe, it's really protects their interest. So we use all kinds of encryption. So even when the data is exchanged between you and your carrier, everything is fully encrypted. End of the day, the way we look at this is, it's not just, protecting your data, and your confidentiality, but being able to still talk to others, and not losing the integrity of your own data. Mm-hmm. That's how our whole network was built. Obviously the goal is to help you grow your business, but, this is a very first thing that comes to in our conversation. Mm-hmm. We very upfront, we tell you everything is confidential, everything is private. So you have that comfort that, this is where we're not losing. Mm-hmm. And that, that shows why we are able to bring in some of the largest brokers on our platform along with, medium size and small size.
Okay. Anthony, how does Parade look at that?
Very similar thoughts where for our customers, their data is theirs and everything has to be isolated. I think when you're evaluating technology vendors on this security, privacy issues, it's more about how does the product work? What is it doing? Is it like Descartes' capacity matching solution where it's a co-op that's sharing? And that's where things are maybe inherently designed to share data, whereas other tools like ours, it's meant purely for understanding the brokerage's business needs, their carrier's business needs, and how to interact further. I think it's important to, one, have a good data policy, review it, build trust with the technology vendor, but then also understand what levels of controls are there, what kind of permissions are there between if there is data that is going to be shown to a carrier, if it's going to be used, have them walk it through with you on how that data is actually going to be used.
Okay.
And then I think that would really help build transparency between both brokers and their technology vendors to better collaborate on different ways. Because, the rating information is very sensitive. A lot of things are more sensitive. And at the same time, there's also so much that can be done if there is access to information. So it is a trust relationship that has to be built over time. And then, I think every single technology vendor really in this space that is going to do something meaningful does have to figure out their data policies of being more isolated. And yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you. Peter, you see a lot of, jump in there, man.
I'm gonna keep it really fast because I think I ate into some of the time with my additional commentary earlier. I think that there are two important aspects or considerations here from a data perspective. One is that, most data breaches that happen are because of human error. If you go to the security conferences, the social engineering is how you get into these, is how most data breaches or many data breaches happen. And I believe that's, or in our experience, that's because, people weren't properly trained on what the privacy guidelines are of how to run their technology. So that means all of your employees should be trained on how to keep your data secure. That means you're not writing down passwords, you're not taking phone calls from people that are asking for passwords, et cetera. The second aspect, is a little bit of, I think that there should actually be, that the industry could benefit from a bit of a reframing around data. I think it's important to keep your customers' data important, and there's certainly value in your data, but the real value is what you do with it. I think that the industry benefits from sharing data in a controlled, anonymized manner. And as a whole, we could all benefit from being a little more open-minded about it, as long as there's intention around how you're actually approaching that. There should be an intentional data strategy. Yeah, so back to you.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
From our standpoint, we look at it as, unless you're going as participants in the market, unless you have the resources to build all your own technology, which some do and some don't, you're going to have to make sure that you are open-minded about who you're partnering with. But be open-minded from the standpoint of look at their behavior on how they've behaved in the past, and be very, very, very good at reading terms and conditions. And even if you have to hire an attorney, make sure you understand what you're committing your data to do and what you're allowing that provider to do with your data. That's so important, because how many apps do we download and I don't ever read the T's and C's. And all of a sudden I'm getting all this stuff I never asked for before, because that's how they're monetizing it. Well, it's a little different in our marketplace because we're all in this together. We can't succeed if you don't succeed. So this is a very close relationship. But just make sure that you're very focused on that, unless you can build your own technology. And unfortunately, less than 10% can build their own technology. But please make sure you do that. Okay, I got two questions, and I think they're both around the same thing. One is, will connected mean the end to human relationships between carriers, brokers, and customers? And the first one, I think, is like it. How would you solve this problem? How can we get more face time with clients and asset-based vendors to increase sales and load covered compared to traditional systems? And maybe give specific examples. Does technology mean the end to relationships, guys? So, Peter, what about you? What do you see?
Absolutely not. I think it's an opportunity to strengthen relationships. when you're integrated with a partner, when you're integrated with a shipper and they're sending over, whether it's EDI or API information, they're sending over shipments to that, through those connections. All that means is that there's not the opportunity for someone to be on the phone and fat finger an order or something along those lines. So I actually think that it gives you more of an opportunity to focus on the relationship, because the actual execution that you're doing on a day-to-day basis is being handled or operated. It allows you to focus on the exceptions and not kind of the day-to-day execution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Prasad, quickly, because we only got a minute.
I'll what Peter said, I totally agree with that.
Okay.
I'll take the other question.
Okay.
How do they improve the face time with the carriers?
Sure.
Right. This is a very important thing for you. The strength comes from your relationships with your carriers. So, while technology should help you do a better business, but the real relationship building comes from you taking and reaching across the table with them. If we ask the question, how many of you actually, when you talk to carriers, see them as they're competing for the profits. Mm-hmm. But likewise, if you ask carriers, your carriers, how many of them will say the broker is competing for my profits, right? Mm-hmm. You got to reach across the table. The one way to look at that is, invite them and say, hey, this is how we do our process, mm-hmm. right? Internally, be transparent with them. Call them or maybe do visits to them based on how big their offices are. If they're small, bring them over and ask them, how do they do their process? Mm-hmm. By understanding their pain points, from your side as a broker, if you reach out and understand the carrier, the 5 trucks guy, 10 trucks guys, their problem, if you understand that and try to say, hey, here are the 4 or 5 things that I hear, we are using technology to solve your problems. Mm-hmm. That goes a long way. Mm-hmm. And instead of saying, well, I don't trust this guy for one load and, I need to go to the next, another carrier for the next load. We call these guys as one load wonders. Use technology to, keep the guys in your network. Don't force them, but entice them. Right. Entice them. If you put the thing that we preach is put the truck before the load. So you're thinking like an asset-based carrier. Instead of starting, I have 100 loads to move today, you're starting off and saying, I have 500 trucks among my carriers to fill. How can I maximize the profits for that guy? Mm-hmm. And that goes a long way. I mean, this is one of the things that would, it's almost like, when you think like an asset-based carrier, you as a broker, you're basically the sky is the limit for you to grow.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So Anthony, I'm going to let you finish on is technology going to replace all relationships? You maybe see this a little differently because you're on the beginning end of this process in the industry. So what's your thought?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Everything we do is focused around that carrier experience. How easy is it for the carrier to start doing business with me? Mm-hmm. And so, well, it's not even what we do, just in general, I think in technology, mm-hmm. How fast can the onboarding be to just start doing business? Right. But then after that, how quickly does that broker understand what my needs are? And I think that relationship will drive a lot of the connectivities that we're talking about. Maybe it's app-based, maybe it's ELD-based, but how do we share information more fluidly between the carrier and the broker? And that only can be done with a strong relationship. Mm-hmm. And then also, even with all the technology that we're providing, mm-hmm. To do more business with the carrier for the broker, mm-hmm. I think every single booking within that we observe is still a phone call, still right. An email. Yeah. And it's always going to be that way. And it's really about empowering tools and technologies to help do that faster.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll end on this. One of my mentors said, in business, trust but validate. Right? Trust but validate. Technology allows you to validate really fast. And all the different things that are more or less somewhat a waste of time that you're just looking for validation on, you can automate all those things through a system that allows you really to work on the bigger things, the better relationship. So to us, it's going to enhance those things. So it just helps you build a better trusted relationship because you can validate really fast and work on the other things. That's the end of our hour. There were a couple questions here. I think that if you'll just stick around for a minute and talk to the guys up here, they'll answer those questions because they were kind of really specific about their business. On behalf of TIA and my esteemed colleagues here, we appreciate you guys giving us your hour and everything, and we appreciate what you do, and just keep growing the marketplace. So thank you for your time.